Hey, this is Colin at the Prairie Media Center. Memorial Day is coming up very soon, and fortunately, we have two guests in the studio today to talk about the significance of Memorial Day, especially here in Wisconsin. And I have the pleasure of being joined by Adam Wallace and Tom Parr. Now, Adam Wallace is from the Wisconsin VFW, and Tom Parr is the Southwest Wisconsin Regional Director at the Wisconsin Veterans Chamber of Commerce. So in a moment, we're going to speak with these two fine gentlemen about Memorial Day, events happening here in Wisconsin in Prairie, and so you're not going to want to miss this one. So Adam, could you please introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me on today, Colin. So my name's Adam Wallace. I'm the state adjutant for the Wisconsin VFW, and I work full-time at our state headquarters in Madison for the Wisconsin VFW, and I help administer the day-to-day operations of the Wisconsin VFW. A little bit of background about myself. I'm an Army veteran, a military police officer. Did one tour in Afghanistan back in 2010 and 11, and now I'm working with the Wisconsin VFW after a career in law enforcement. And that's the short of it there.
Are you originally from Wisconsin?
No, I'm originally from southwest suburbs of Chicago.
Oh.
Yes. So I'm a transplant here, but I've been up in Wisconsin since about 2016. I currently reside in Stoughton, and that's also the VFW post I belong to.
Terrific. And Tom, I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce yourself.
Well, thanks for having me today, Colin. I'm a lifelong resident of the Dane County area. In fact, I've got strong ties with Prairie. My dad was born in Prairie and helped deliver corn at the very first Sweet Corn Festival. So you'll have to do the math to figure out how long ago that was.
That was, yeah.
But, I'm the Southwest Regional Director for the Wisconsin Veterans Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce works like any other chamber in that we help our members try to achieve their business goals. We have a veteran flavor to our chamber, so we assist veteran-owned and veteran-friendly businesses. For me, I spent 13 and a half years in the Army and all of its components. I enlisted right out of high school in the Army Reserves. Then I got my commission through UW-Madison Army ROTC and went on active duty in the 2nd Armored Division and 4th Infantry Division at Fort Hood, Texas, before I came back and finished off my career in the Wisconsin Army National Guard with the 1st to the 126th Field Artillery. I had 24 years in the City of Madison Police Department, where I retired as a crime scene investigator back in 2022. And now I currently work with the Veterans Chamber trying to push the narrative for veteran-owned and veteran-friendly businesses.
Well, it is truly a privilege and an honor to be sitting here with both of you, and thank you very much for not only your dedication to the country, but the dedication that you have provided to humanity, we'll say.
Thank you, Colin.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that. So let's get into the history of Memorial Day here in the U.S., because I have a basic understanding, but I'm sure many of our listeners like me probably need to be clued in a little bit about just how deep the history is. So Tom, could you get into that?
Sure. A lot of people get confused the difference between Memorial Day and Veterans Day. Memorial Day was first known as Decoration Day, and it started on the 30th of May in 1868 after the Civil War. It was meant to honor fallen comrades from the Union Army. And the whole reasoning behind Memorial Day was to renew our pledge to orphans and widows of that war. And you look at that as opposed to Veterans Day. Veterans Day was established as Armistice Day right after the end of World War I. Everyone kind of knows the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, 1918. That was the official end of World War I. And we try to signify that in this country. And we did so in 1926. It became Armistice Day, and it was nationally recognized. And then it became a national holiday in 1938, and then in 1954 we changed it to Veterans Day in honor of all veterans from all wars.
Okay.
So that's kind of the main difference between Memorial Day and Veterans Day.
Thank you for addressing that, because that can get confusing, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So as a vet, Adam, I'm curious, what does Memorial Day mean to you or mean to veterans?
Yeah, Memorial Day means a lot to a lot of different people, and I think especially from the veteran perspective, these are our brothers and sisters that served alongside of us. Myself as a combat veteran of Afghanistan and within the VFW, especially, a lot of us have lost brothers and sisters during combat. Now, I personally did not, but I know many people who did. And Memorial Day is a very somber day. And it's kind of a unique perspective because there's a lot of parades, there's a lot of celebration that kind of goes along with it. I see a lot of veterans struggle with that, wanting to be a good representative of the veteran community and wanting to participate in these celebrations of appreciation and recognition. And so I just think that the general public should really just keep in mind that, it's okay to celebrate and be patriotic and in a cheerful way remember the sacrifices of these service members who laid their lives down for all of us so we can live in this country free. But, like I said, it's okay to celebrate and be cheerful, but also keep in mind that veteran that you might come across for Memorial Day during those services, celebrations, memorials and recognitions that, that veteran might be hurting. That veteran might have had a brother or sister that didn't come home with them on their deployment. So I think that's just a good thing to be mindful of from that perspective. So
I think that's a great point. Yeah. Anything that you would like to add to that?
I echo the sentiment of Adam. Everyone celebrates and honors in a different fashion, and you got to be cognizant of how other people go about their business. So, we celebrate and honor them in our own special way. And we know Memorial Day is to honor those that aren't among us anymore, and Veterans Day is to honor those still among us who had served. And, you just got to give time and space and make sure you know your audience. So I echo what Adam has just said.
I think that's a great point.
Yeah, and one thing to add with that as well is it's never a bad day to thank a veteran for what they've done and what they've sacrificed, because all veterans, whether they made the ultimate sacrifice, and those are the ones that we recognize on Memorial Day, or the veteran that raised their hand, they wrote a blank check to Uncle Sam. But just be cognizant in and around Memorial Day that the focus should really be on those brothers and sisters who never came back to be able to be thanked. So if there's a weekend that you might want to, I see it all the time on my social media. I see it with my friends and family. I get thanked for my service, on or around Memorial Day. And while I deeply appreciate it, that weekend and that day is not for me and for my brothers and sisters here. It's for those that did not come home.
And I'll tell you in a personal story. So I'll see a lot of times photos of the Vietnam War Memorial in Washington, D.C. on people's feeds. And certainly that will give pause, but there's no substitute for actually being. I grew up in Maryland, and so I took a lot of trips to D.C., school trips, and seeing that wall in person is just, it's special. I mean, it's, and I don't mean that in a really positive light, but it's just, there's something so, obviously it's a very morose thing that you're considering that these people have paid that ultimate sacrifice, but it's really, it's hard to describe the feeling that you get when you see that.
I've been there to Washington, D.C. many times, including this past March for legislative advocacy on behalf of the VFW, and going by that Vietnam War Memorial and being able to touch each name of each panel of somebody who didn't come home and somebody who kept that war across. And the same sentiment is also there for the Korean War Memorial that lists all the names, and then the World War II Memorial, it's very grandiose in its scale, as it should be for what it represents, and then each star behind the fountain, if I recall correctly, I think each star represents, I believe it's 1,000 service members who sacrificed, and it's a whole wall of stars. It just, the immense sacrifice that has been given to preserve our way of life. It's going to Washington, D.C. and seeing those in person. It's very moving. for anybody, whether you're served, whether you have a connection to service, or whether you're just a citizen. You can see the sacrifice, because when we join, and those who have put their lives down, who sacrifice their lives, they don't care who you are, who you were, who you're going to be. They just know that you're an American, and that's what they want to preserve and fight for.
Right. Was it the Korean War Memorial that it's basically like torsos of soldiers with their arms, like they're submerged in water and they're holding their rifle?
It's
Is
actually
that what it
it's a squad patrol of, I believe it's representative of Allied forces in general, to include Korean service members, but it's a patrol formation, and like a triangle patrol formation, and where they're walking through is supposed to be like a rice paddy.
Okay.
And so one thing that I remember, I went to D.C. the first time when I was in 8th grade for a school trip, and it was pointed out that anytime you walk around that triangle and look, there's always one of those patrolling soldiers that is looking at you.
Wow.
And it's just, next time you go, or if anybody's listening, when you go to the Korean War Memorial, do walk around, and you'll see that at any angle there's a soldier looking, and just a very cool feature there. But it's
I did not
it's
know
very it's a very moving memorial, and means a lot to me personally as well. My grandfather served in Korea, and that's who inspired my service. So I always visit that one as well.
Okay, well, let's change gears a little bit. So, Tom, can you talk a little bit more? Some of our listeners may not know, I know you touched on this at the beginning, what all the Wisconsin Veterans Chamber does, and maybe there are some events happening with the Chamber or through the Chamber for Memorial Day. So would you mind getting into that?
Sure. We have a couple things going on, but I'd like to explain a little bit more about our chamber and the type of venues that we do have. We have some programs that set us apart from other chambers that have that veteran flavor. One thing's called Command Post, and that is a program for small business, especially startups. We help them, we get a cohort set up, and we run them through courses like, legal items and how to do payroll and things like that, so they can be successful, because most small businesses do fail within the first 3 years of starting up. So we work with UW Systems Small Business Development Center to build a curriculum, but that's something we do, and that's free of charge. So we set up those courses and try to help out businesses. The second thing we do workforce workshops, either in conjunction with state DWD or on personal levels with different organizations to try to marry up veterans to jobs. Mm-hmm. So that's something pretty cool that we do. And then the final program we have is called Invest in Vets. We know it's not only recruiting veterans into the workplace, it's also how do you retain them as well as your other employees. So we help and assist organizations set up employee resource groups. And we're pretty excited about that aspect, because a lot of businesses have silent quitting all the time, and they can't figure out why we can't keep any employees. Well, maybe you're doing something fundamentally wrong, and I don't want to work for you anymore. So that's kind of what we do, and it's fun. The other thing is, I started last June with the chamber in my current role, and we weren't talking to a whole lot of other chambers. As of today, we have 46 other chambers statewide that we work in partnership with, which gives all members in those organizations a networking potential of over 21,000 businesses.
Wow.
And that's free. I love free. Everyone can afford free. And we look at it like, hey, if you got a question about Green Bay, I can call the regional director up in Green Bay, Shane Cannonberg, and go, Shane, can you help this individual figure out who they need to talk to? That's regardless of, and we work with the Sun Prairie Chamber. We love them, and that's a standing scenario. We'll help anybody anytime, because we're trying to push commerce in this state and help our veteran-owned businesses. So that's something that we're pretty proud of. In terms of a couple things we got going on locally, and I'm going to bring up Adam and the VFW several times here, so bear with me, Adam. I love our partnership with VFW Wisconsin, and Adam and I have known each other for years, and great friend. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Tom.
We've got a book signing coming up. That's on May 20th at the VFW Post 7591 on Cottage Grove Road, Madison. I think it's 301 Cottage Grove Road. Now, that book signing is pretty special to me. The author is a local author named Danelle Gay. She wrote a book based on dispatches that her father-in-law sent back home while he was in the Army Air Corps during World War II. Wow. The title of the book is World War II, Dispatches to Madison, Letters Home from an Army Air Corps Soldier. Now, the cool thing with this is 100% of the proceeds go to the Wounded Warrior Project. That's tremendous in and of itself, and I get a little choked up too because she asked me to write the foreword for the book. And in that, I'll foreshadow a little bit. I talk about my great-great-granduncle walking into Camp Randall to sign up for the Civil War.
Wow.
He was in Bravo Company, 7th Infantry, and got wounded at the Siege of Petersburg. But if you want to know more about that, buy the book.
Way to front sell.
Yes. And I talk a little bit about my father's side, the Parr family here in the Sun Prairie area, and how many of them went off to World War II. So we've got a couple wars talked about in my foreword, but I'm excited about this book. Again, the book signing's at the VFW 301 Cottage Grove Road on Monday, May 30th from 5 to 8 p.m., and all proceeds going to Wounded Warrior. And then we have a networking event at the same post on July 18th from, I believe, 4 to 6 p.m., and that's going to be cool because we're inviting anybody who wants to attend. It's a networking event for your business. You don't have to be a member of any of these 4 entities I'm about to explain, but Wisconsin Veterans Chamber of Commerce, the Better Business Bureau of Wisconsin, Dane Buy Local, and Monona Eastside Business Alliance are the founding chambers and business organizations sponsoring that, and it's free. And there's going to be free pop, beer, and wine.
Oh, wow.
So please come. And then finally, we have our business conference. Every year, the Wisconsin Veterans Chamber of Commerce has a statewide business conference. This year, it's on Wednesday, October 9th in Madison. It's the first time ever being outside of Milwaukee, so we're ecstatic.
Great.
Very exciting.
That's from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Sheridan Hotel in Madison. And the cool thing about that is we have food trucks this year. We have 2 food trucks. One's Primal Q,
Ooh.
here from Sun Prairie.
Ooh.
God bless them. And the second one is from Post 1318 on the south side of Madison, VFW. And they'll be serving, I think, brats and hamburgers. And Primal Q, you can only imagine what they'll be serving. But we're excited about that. And if you have any questions, you can always go to our website, which is wiveteranschamber.org for more info. Thanks.
Wonderful. There's a lot going on.
Yes, there is.
And I can smell the barbecue, too. And a lot of that, you said, was not the food trucks, but a lot of that is free.
Yeah. The actual business conference, we're asking for payment because Primal Q and VFW
Sure.
need to make some money. Primal Q, I think he's Army vet. I think Army
Not
owned.
too sure.
Yep. I'm pretty positive he's veteran owned. So, and I love their food and I love a brat. So
Yeah.
you can't complain.
And you got to support.
Yep.
Right. Okay, so we'll wrap up pretty soon here, but Adam, I wanted to just learn a little bit more about the Wisconsin VFW and perhaps some events that are happening. I know Tom pointed out several of them, but if there's anything else that you would like to share with our listeners about the VFW and then how the VFW is celebrating.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the opportunity. First, before I kind of get to the VFW portion, I have to commend Tom on the work that he's done with the Wisconsin Veterans Chamber of Commerce. The way they're set up now with these regional directors, Tom has really elevated the presence of the Wisconsin Veterans Chamber of Commerce in southwestern and Dane County. It used to be very Milwaukee-centric, but I know I can speak for the southwest region here in Dane County, and Tom has really elevated that, so I commend you for that, Tom.
Thank you, Adam. I appreciate it.
So the Wisconsin VFW, I just kind of wanted to expound, maybe should have done it at the beginning, but, thanks for hanging with and learning a little bit more here. To get to the basics, the VFW, Veterans of Foreign Wars, that's what the VFW stands for. Some people don't know that. And the VFW is actually nationally, and of course within the state of Wisconsin, we are the largest largest combat veteran organization. In the state of Wisconsin, we have over 30,000 members and auxiliary members. Wow. And that may sound like a big number, but with approximately 340,000 veterans in the state of Wisconsin, I guarantee there are dozens, if not hundreds, of people listening to this right now who are an eligible veteran and do not belong to the Wisconsin VFW. So, with me representing the state, it's really hard to keep track of specifically all the events and in the local areas too. So if you want to support a Memorial Day event or see what your local posts are doing, a good portion, I would say a very strong majority of our VFW posts have social media. And I would recommend going to their Facebook pages. Look up the Sun Prairie VFW post on Facebook. Look up the post 7591 at Cottage Grove Road. You got the Madison Truex 8483 up there in northern Madison, post 1318 in southwestern Madison, and a ton of other posts around in the area. So most posts do some sort of event or participate in a parade. So I would recommend that you individually look up whatever your closest post is. And the why should you support the VFW and potentially join either as a member or as an auxiliary member? And so most VFW posts have an auxiliary, and what the auxiliary is family members and descendants of VFW members or eligible members. So to be eligible for the VFW as a veteran, you have to have served honorably and also served in an area of combat, to include Korea post-1953 up until today, because the armistice was signed, but it's never been a peace deal. So effectively, Korea's been at war. So if you went and served what you think was Korea in peacetime, you were there, still during war. So you're eligible for the VFW. It's one that people don't know about a lot. And anything where you got some sort of expeditionary medal or campaign medal, also including submarine service, SSBN service, makes you eligible for the VFW. And if you are a parent, grandparent, or son and daughter or grandson or granddaughter of an eligible veteran or sibling, you're eligible for the auxiliary. And the reason that I'm encouraging the joining is because one of the biggest things that we do with the VFW is veterans advocacy. And without members to represent and to be counted, our voice is less powerful, both at a national level and here in the state of Wisconsin. And one thing I would like to talk about was our support for a bill that unfortunately did not pass this year, and that was to provide state funding for the University of Wisconsin Missing in Action and Recovery Program. Unfortunately, politics won, and the bill did not pass or even really get a shot to pass. And it's a no-brainer bill. We were asking for the state to pony up $180,000 a year so this program can go and find, identify, and recover the remains of those that are still missing in action. Because there's a significant amount of not only Wisconsin veterans, but veterans from across the country that are still, unaccounted for. Oh. And one of the VFW's mission is to make sure that they're all brought home and reinterned here in the states where they belong. And so without you, the listener who might be a potential auxiliary or VFW eligible member, without you joining, our voice to advocate for bills like that becomes weaker and weaker. So we need everybody from all generations to join up. And the VFW, it's not the bunch of old guys sitting in a smoky bar anymore. We're active. We're advocating. We are a multi-generational, over century-old organization. The Wisconsin VFW has been around now for about 104 years, coming up on, and we have members in our ranks from World War II all the way up until current conflicts. And so if you're listening and you're eligible, join, get involved, support. If you might not be eligible for auxiliary VFW, go to contact your local posts. Find out, be that supporter. Donate your time, donate your money if you're able to. That would be great. So we, I had mentioned that we were in D.C. for our legislative advocacy, advocating for national level bills. We also do that here on the state level, and that's where it's important to have those numbers. When our state commander or our legislative representative are advocating for those bills, that they have those numbers to represent them. And also, if you are just a general veteran supporter and you see a veteran bill come up, call your representative, call your state senator, and tell them that you support it. We need not only veterans knocking on doors and calling these officials to let them know we support these bills, but we need the citizens to step up and say, yes, we support veterans too. And that'd be a great help. But the Wisconsin VFW, we have about 230 posts across the state. Not every post owns a building. A lot of posts meet out of libraries, meet out of civic buildings, and provide programs to the community. Our biggest thing is veteran support and community support and advocacy for legislation. The VFW, it's really a great place for all generations to belong to.
Very well said. And really, there's that strength in numbers. The more people that are involved, not only are you constructing a larger support system for the vets, but you're also gaining, like you said, you're gaining more and more voices with action in terms of these legislative bills that come across the table. The more people to advocate for veterans. So
yeah, and beyond the numbers to support our advocacy mission. Just belonging and being in a place where that the people sitting next to your left and right have had similar experiences. I'll personally share, when I got active in the VFW, I joined back in 2011 as soon as I got back from Afghanistan, but I didn't really get active until 2014 when I was in DeKalb, Illinois. And, I wasn't in a great place. I was not well put together. I didn't really know what the future held for me. And God bless my wife sticking through with me through all that. But I was in a down place, and I really credit the VFW with giving me a sense of purpose and belonging, because that's, I've seen it all across the state, all across the nation, where these veterans find the VFW and they find that purpose to serve again. It's not just the VFW. Of course, me being the state adjutant for the VFW, I have to talk about them, but it's the same thing with the Legion and the DAV, the Disabled American Veterans, any of these veteran service organizations where you can join and be a part of an organization where your brothers and sisters to your left and right have had the same experience. It gives you that sense of purpose and service again, because veterans are the type of people that want to continue to give and give and give and give. And these VSOs, these veteran service organizations, give them that opportunity of to give again and a sense of belonging.
Wow. I get a little tingly. Well, gentlemen, is there anything else before we say goodbye that you would like to share with our listeners?
Just as Memorial Day is in the forefront, take that time to reflect, but also take the time to enjoy yourself. It is the kickoff to summer, and the freedom to celebrate, to enjoy each other's company, enjoy your family. Every veteran and those who sacrifice the ultimate sacrifice want that proliferation of that American experience and that American freedom. So don't be afraid to celebrate summer and have a good time, but also, take that time, whether it's 30 seconds, a few minutes, just to reflect on the meaning of Memorial Day, and continue on to enjoy yourself and know that you can experience that because of the veterans who sacrificed so much.
Right, you're celebrating the sacrifice. You're celebrating these brave individuals, so you can certainly have a good time, but at the heart of it, you have to be, like you said, at least 30 seconds, but spend some time really recognizing why Memorial Day exists, why, celebrating the individual.
Absolutely.
Well, again, it's been an absolute pleasure and privilege to be speaking with both of you. Thank you so much for everything that you have done, are doing, and will continue to do. And thank you for highlighting and spotlighting the purpose of Memorial Day and helping the Sun Prairie residents and residents from Wisconsin, wherever in Wisconsin, helping them to recognize how they can celebrate Memorial Day with purpose.
We appreciate it. Thank you very much, Colin.
Yes. Thank you, Colin.
Thank you.